Hello from London. I'm Jess. I've lived in London for over 11 years and I've been running Love in London for over 9. And while London is generally a safe and friendly city, there are some people here that are looking to take advantage of people like you.
Unsuspecting tourists.
So in this video, I'm going to tell you how you can spot tourist traps here in London so you can save your hard-earned cash and also make sure you're spending your time having authentic cultural experiences in this city. So let's go. By the way, first lesson right behind me, avoid any places like this, especially if they have a list of vapes that you can buy. It's just no. First off, what are we counting as a tourist trap? Well, PhotoAid did a study and they say that tourist traps generally have one or more of the following elements. Those are the guidelines that we're following today, and we're not knocking the attractions and places that are just popular with tourists. We are, however, coming for the ones that are designed to take advantage of them. Have you ever seen something splashed across social media as like, you have to go and try this, or look how cool this thing is? And so you end up going, having to wait in line with all the other people who saw it all over social media, and then you end up paying a lot of money for something that either doesn't taste very good or is kind of a mediocre experience. And that's what these places are made for, just to get your money so you can take your picture, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's actually that good. So how do you avoid places like this? Well, if something is getting a lot of hype on social media just because of the appearance of a piece of food, or maybe a cute picture that you can get once you're there, generally be wary of places like that. And instead get some recommendations of things to do from people who are locals and don't necessarily care about if this is gonna look amazing on Instagram. I mean, that's exactly what we do. We don't care how it's gonna look. If it tastes good and it's an amazing experience, that's what we care about and that's what we recommend to you guys. By the way, this is one of those places, L&N Cafe, all over social media because everything is pink and sparkly and over the top. It's also freaking expensive and not that good, just so you know. What does the London Eye, Winter Wonderland, Madame Tussauds, and Leicester Square all have in common besides insanely large price tags that are affiliated with them? That is the throngs of crowds that you have to elbow your way through to have somewhat of an experience at these places. Tourist traps are made to get as much people in as they can and to take all of our money and not really care that much about what your experience is once you're inside. So if you get to something in London and you see a sea of people with backpacks on and cameras and people that just look like they've traveled from afar and not from somewhere in London, you might want to escort yourself out and go find something better to do. Those cheesy rickshaws, the guys playing the ball and cup game, guys selling random nuts on the side of a bridge. All these kinds of things are near all the major touristy areas in London. And for some reason, they're always trying to get your attention, right? They always want you to come over. They want to show you something. Let's just say these people never have your best interests at heart. All they want from you is some money. So if you see someone trying to get your attention, trying to bring you over, or you're just in a really touristy area and you see like an ice cream truck or something, do yourself a favor and keep walking. If you do find yourself in one of these very touristy areas and you need a drink or a snack, never really that far from a shop or a cafe that's gonna charge a bit cheaper than some of the vendors that are right next to the attractions. And if you want good souvenirs, you ain't gonna get it from the guy on the side of the road selling random bobbleheads. Instead, we have a great video about amazing souvenirs that you can get while you're in London. So go watch that next. It'll give you some fantastic ideas of like artisan, local, cool things that you can get and bring home with you. Okay, let's talk about food. Now, London has some of the best cuisine of the entire world, and anyone who says differently, it's probably because they ate at places like this behind me. These places are designed to take your tourist money and deliver a very mediocre experience in exchange. A lot of the places around here, which is right now we're between Piccadilly Circus and Leicester Square, you can expect that at like almost any of the restaurants around here. So here's how you can spot if a restaurant is a tourist trap. There are a few different ways. First off, if it says authentic on the sign or on the menu, it's probably not. It's kind of like one of those things where if you have to say it, it's probably not true. So definitely avoid that. Also, if they've got people outside the restaurant trying to convince you to come in, that's usually a big no. So just keep walking and ignore. Also, restaurants here in London tend to be pretty localized in terms of what type of cuisine that they serve. For example, you might go to an Italian restaurant and it's only food from a certain region in Italy. So if you see a restaurant that has food from Italy and Mexico and there's fish and chips and there's some Thai food, that's gonna be crap, so avoid that. Here you have it, folks, the best culinary experience in the UK at a restaurant called Happy. Really? Cuban sandwich, Parmigiano prawns, and in case you're not sure what they look like, stunning food photography alongside it. Lasagna Ultima. That does not look Ultima, I'll tell you that. Also, as you can probably imagine, if you're in any of the majorly touristy areas immediately in there, like for example, Leicester Square, which is just over there, you can basically expect that all of the places to eat there are not gonna be very good. Instead, go around the corner and go to a place like Chinatown and you'll have much better food. And if you want to know the restaurants that we highly recommend that you go to when you come to London, we have lots of options in both our London itineraries and our casual tourist guides, and those can be found in the Love in London shop. So we will leave a link to them down in the description box. We want to make sure you eat well, so that's what those are for. Sorry, I am coming for these immersive museums like the Clink Museum and the London Dungeon and Shrek's Great Adventure, which, I don't know, doesn't scream historical London and culture to me. As a rule of thumb, avoid anything with a spooky backdrop and with 19-year-olds dressed up as Sweeney Todd or Fiona, Shrek's girlfriend, and anything that's really more of a fairground ride but calling itself a museum. It's not a museum. If you want to learn about history, there are so many historical places to go in London that are quite immersive in themselves. You can go see the ceremony of the keys at the Tower of London or take a tour of Parliament. There's, endless amounts of things that you can do here to immerse yourself without feeling like you're in some creepy, weird show. And if you do want performance in theater, we have the amazing West End here in London where you can see world-class theater. We have a whole video about how you can get yourself to the theater here in London, how to get tickets, what shows are our favorites. So make sure you watch that video after this one. But ultimately, all of this weird, immersive museum theater stuff, we tend to avoid and Londoners definitely stay away from. Hello from London. Now, because London is such a popular city to visit, there have been a lot of areas that come up that tourists think that they should definitely go to when they come here. But actually, us Londoners know that they are overpriced, tacky, and too crowded. And honestly, we want to tell you to avoid them at all costs. So in this video, we're going to tell you which areas those are, but also give you some great suggestions of alternatives that we think you'll like a lot more. So let's do it. For those of you who have been around this channel for a while, you already know my thoughts on Leicester Square. But if you're new here, hi, let's just say I'm not a fan. I mean, look at what we're working with here. We've got McDonald's, M&M World, TGI Friday, American candy stores. Yeah, that's what you want to do when you come to London. Go buy some overpriced American candy. I don't understand. Yeah, Londoners do not come through here unless we have to. If we're getting somewhere, you can usually tell who is a Londoner who's doing that because they're walking really fast, like kind of with their head down and their earphones in, just trying to get through as quickly as possible. And it's kind of weird because a couple centuries ago, this used to be the cultural hub of London. People would come here for shows and to get their fill on entertainment and culture. And now it's actually the opposite. It's where good culture and good taste goes to die. So if you want global fast food and strange casinos and to come to an overpriced cinema, then come to Leicester Square. But otherwise, we're actually really close to other areas that have culture and good food and good drinks and a better vibe where you'll actually find Londoners. So I would say go to those places instead. Come and eat in Chinatown. There's a whole range of what you can find here in Chinatown. There's a lot of places that you can get street food. I love stopping into Taiyakiya and getting one of their taiyaki. It's this little pancake fish that you can fill with either sweet or savory stuff. Makes for a great snack. Or you can stop into one of the famous bakeries in the area. You'll find lots of affordable eats in there, and you can actually try a whole bunch of different ones because everything is so cheap and so yummy. After that, you can walk 2 minutes up to Soho, which is a very buzzy area, especially in the evenings, where you're gonna find good bars, good restaurants, and lots going on. This is like where the things are happening, especially at night. And we actually have a video that tells you about some great things you can do around Soho in the evening. So make sure you watch that after this. And if you want to know about the best places to go around Soho, because there's also definitely a lot that you want to skip. There's a whole lot of stuff that is definitely not worth spending your money in. Well, we include Soho in day 2 of our London itineraries. So we plot on the map everywhere that you should go when you're here. Link in description if you want to check out our London itineraries. If you read a travel guide, which is probably not written by a Londoner, that says that Camden Market is a cool, eclectic place to come in London, they're wrong. Camden Market, unfortunately, lost its cool and eclectic reputation about 10 years ago when it got bought up by some rich people, and those rich people drove up the rent prices here. So unfortunately, a lot of the good independent vendors and shops couldn't afford to stay here. And now we have lots of shops that are just basically selling tat, which is British for There are some okay places, of course, but you really have to dig. But also, this market is so popular that it gets so crowded, especially during the summer and especially on the weekends. I appreciate it looks really dead right now, and that's because it's -3 degrees on a Thursday in January. So it is actually very quiet, but generally, Londoners avoid Camden Market because it's not very good, it has a lot of crap stuff, and it's also usually very, very busy. Instead, come here to Camden Passage, which actually is not in Camden, but is 30 seconds away from Angel Station. And this lovely little street alleyway here is lined with a ton of amazing independent shops and cafes, which is really nice. It's managed to maintain its charm and not be overrun by big commercial chains like you find at Camden Market. And that's why Londoners love to come here, especially during the week when it's usually nice and quiet. Also, if you love antiques, this is a great place to come on a Wednesday or a Saturday because they have a pop-up antiques market with actually very affordable items that you can buy, but love it here. This is Oxford Street, the busiest shopping street in all of Europe, and it sees 500,000 people on average per day. So honestly, walking on this street can be hell. Now, we are filming this on a Monday before noon in the dead of January on a very cold day. So it doesn't look that busy, but I'm telling you, if you come here on a Saturday during December before Christmas, oh my God, you will never want to leave a street as quickly as you would do on that day. So Londoners generally will try to avoid walking on Oxford Street as much as possible because it's kind of a nightmare most of the time. And besides Selfridges, the department store that's next to me, most of the shops you'll find on Oxford Street are big global brands anyway, so you're gonna find them all over the world and you don't necessarily need to come to them in London. And if you do still want to go shopping, instead I have 2 other recommendations for you. Just a few minutes walk from Oxford Street is Marylebone High Street. This is actually one of my favorite places to come shopping, and that's because they have a really nice mix of mid-range boutique chain shops, as well as independent shops, cafes, restaurants, and even charity shops, which have a really nice selection of things to buy. You'll also find way less crowds here than you would on Oxford Street, and the vibe that you get around Marylebone is just more relaxed and almost feels like you're in a little village. So I really like coming coming here to go shopping. Plus you can just stroll around, get a coffee, go into Daunt Bookshop, do your shopping, have some lunch. There's lots of things you can do and see around here. Alternatively, I also love the vintage and secondhand shops that you can find around Shoreditch on Brick Lane. You can find really unique, interesting pieces that are secondhand, so it's better for the environment. And if you're over there, go check out East End Prints, which is what I think the best place to get London-y prints in the entire city. And finally, we've got Westminster Bridge and the South Bank area near the London Eye. I know so many Londoners who are trying to avoid this bridge at all costs and taking different routes to be able to do it. And the reason is that this bridge gets so incredibly crowded, understandably, because people want to come up here and take lots of photos of Big Ben, Houses of Parliament, and of course people want to go on the London Eye and they want to do Shrek's Great Adventure and the London Dungeons. I have no idea why, that just perplexes me, but apparently they do. It's also prime areas for pickpockets because they know all the tourists are here, and there's even scam artists doing the ball and cup game that we talked about in our London scams video. So if you can avoid coming onto this bridge or going down there, I would recommend it. However, I also completely understand that if you're coming from Westminster, from the Houses of Parliament, and you want to go to the London Eye, this is really the only route you're going to take. And maybe you do want to come take photos and you're going to deal with it. That's fine, but just know that Londoners would rather die. Instead, let me tell you about one of my favorite areas in London called Bermondsey. Bermondsey is pretty centrally located. We're actually not far from the River Thames, London Bridge, and the Shard, but uniquely you get a pretty villagey feel here. Bermondsey is actually quite a historical area. A couple of centuries ago, it was filled with industry, things like factories and tanneries, and you can actually still see remnants of those times in some of the old buildings here. It's pretty cool. And also, if you've ever read Oliver Twist, this is actually the area that Oliver Twist takes place in. These days, it's a nice, lovely, quiet area where you can come for nice restaurants, good cafes, and there's also some good shopping here too. Hello from London. Listen, London is generally a pretty safe city, but it is a big city. So there are some things that you do need to do while you're here to keep yourself and your belongings safe. So in this video, I'm going to tell you about some common scams you might come across when you visit London and how you can avoid them. So let's get into it. So we have these rickshaws that will go all around central London and in the touristy areas, and they are basically unregulated. And while there are, of course, lots of, I'm sure, very honest drivers who will charge you the normal rate that you're supposed to be charged to take one of those, I've heard so many stories of tourists that agreed a price when they first got into it, and then when they got to the destination, another higher price was demanded of them. And I've heard enough stories that I definitely would say that it's best to avoid these. If you want a different way to get around central London that's not a rickshaw, you could rent a city bike, which is called a Santander bike. You could get one of the Lime electric bikes or the other companies that offer them here. Or, of course, you could support a great small business and do a bike tour or a walking tour around the area. And we'll put lots of suggestions for companies that we think do great tours around central London in the description box of the video. Support small business. It's much better. The second scam I want to talk about is selling of fake tickets. Now listen, I know it's kind of annoying if you come to London and the show that you wanted to see was sold out, or you haven't managed to get tickets for a certain attraction yet, but if somebody comes up to you in like Leicester Square, where we are, or Piccadilly Circus, offering to sell you tickets, and especially if they are at a big discount, avoid, avoid, avoid. A lot of times these places or these people are scamming you, and you're gonna actually end up losing a lot of money and have pieces of paper that don't get you into anywhere. I'd also say to avoid the little shops near Covent Garden and Leicester Square that are selling half-price tickets. They're not A scam, they are selling actual tickets usually, but they often come at a pretty big markup, so you're better off just avoiding. Also, beware of anyone trying to sell tickets for anything that is free. For example, watching Changing the Guard at Buckingham Palace, anyone can go, you don't need a ticket, you don't need to pay for one, definitely. That is completely free, you do not. That is completely free, you do not. Don't give anyone any money for that, you literally just rock up and watch. There are some things you can do to protect yourself. First of all, as a rule, do not buy any tickets from anybody off the street, ever. Second of all, always buy your tickets either from the venue's actual website or a reputable seller like TodayTix and the TKTS booth and official London Theatre website are all great for buying your theater tickets. And to avoid any disappointment, make sure you book things like theater and attractions in advance. By the way, if it's your first time visiting London, we have a free London trip checklist, which tells you everything you need to do, book and buy before you come, and when you need to do it by. So to get that for free, click the link in the description box of the video and sign up. Back to the video. Then there's the street game scam. Sometimes called 3-card Monty, sometimes the cup and ball game. There's basically a bunch of different variations of these street games that people play on the major bridges, like here at Westminster Bridge, or around the major tourist attractions. Basically, the way it works is there'll be a guy on the side of the bridge with 3 cups in front of him, and he'll put 1 ball under one of the cups. Then he'll bet a passerby like 20 pounds that the person can't find the ball after he zhuzhes up the cups. And it's basically unwinnable because with sleight of hand, the person gets rid of the ball, and so the ball's under none of the cups. So no matter which cup you choose, you're not gonna win. And it's the same with the card game as well. These games are also run by groups of people. There's usually one person watching for law enforcement, one person who is an actual winner but is a fake plant, so it makes it look like it is actually winnable. And overall, you just want to avoid all of this. Also, even if you're just watching, the area right around these places are usually prime spots for pickpockets, so make sure you are keeping an eye on your stuff. And actually just don't watch this stuff. I mean, really, you're gonna come to London and watch some balls and cups? Just a bit weird. So this one is a bit more high tech, but it could be a problem for tourists who don't have access to their own data roaming when they're in London. Scammers can use something called a pineapple, not the fruit, sadly, but it's basically where they set up a fake Wi-Fi that people connect to, and then as soon as you connect to it, scammers can basically access everything on your phone. Your social media profiles, any credit card or bank information you put in, your contacts who try to do some phishing scams. What they do is they set up a Wi-Fi network that looks like it's supposed to be the secure one, like at the airport or in an area with lots of shops, so that you connect to it, but then actually it's not the secure one. It's the one that's gonna take all of your information. Luckily, there are a few ways that you can avoid this. First, you can get your own data roaming package, whether that's through your original phone provider, or you can get a UK SIM or download an eSIM. And we have some reputable companies that we recommend linked in the description box of this video. If you have to use Wi-Fi, make sure you use the legitimate one for the place that you're in. For example, cafes and shops usually will have a sign on the wall with the actual name of their own network and the password, so make sure you connect to the exact one, because the scammers usually make one that has like an underscore after it or that looks almost the same. You could also protect yourself by setting up a VPN on your phone and your devices, which is a virtual private network, and that basically protects all of your data and your devices from being scammed from these pineapples. Basically, your best bet is to have data set up on your phone so you can use that as much as possible without having to connect to potentially rogue Wi-Fis. This next one will show you that you definitely should not be leaving anything valuable on a table when you're in London, or really like any major city. This happens everywhere. Basically, there's a thing where if you leave, let's say, your phone on the table, that someone comes over and they've got some clipboard or a piece of paper, and they're usually asking for something that's like quite nice. Like, oh, would you mind signing this petition that supports our local boys football team for young people or something like that. And you're like, obviously I would sign that. That's so easy. Then they take the clipboard or the piece of paper and they put it down on top of your phone or your valuable without you noticing. You sign and then they take it away and say, thank you so much. Oh my God, you're so nice. And they take your phone with it before you even notice, because you're really busy thinking about how good of a person you are, which makes sense. So, moral of the story is, don't ever leave any valuables on the table. I have actually seen this happen in person a lot, both inside places like pubs and bars, but also when sat outside. So, rule of thumb, keep it in a pocket or in your bag. Hello from London. Today, we are gonna talk about TripAdvisor. This is the first thing that people think of when they're planning a trip abroad. It's the website people look at to figure out which attractions to go in a new city, but it's also the website that's gonna direct you to the biggest, most expensive, and busiest attractions wherever you're going. So today, I'm gonna have a look at TripAdvisor, see what it's telling us that we should go to here in London, and give you some great alternatives so you can avoid those if you want. So let's go do it. So first, what we're gonna do is have a look to see what attractions TripAdvisor is telling us are the top ones to go to in London. So let me bring up the app, let's type in London. Okay, so here we go. 5 main attractions to visit in London. Number 1, the Tower of London. Number 2, the British Museum. Number 3, the London Eye. Number 4, the National Gallery. And number 5, Tower Bridge. Okay. Interesting. Let's start with number 1, the Tower of London. Literally just over there, across the river from us right now. It's one of the royal palaces and it's a secure fortress on the north bank of the River Thames. Now, I'm not gonna knock the Tower of London. The building is very old and there is a ton of history on this plot of land. They've done an amazing job of preserving the building, and you can even sponsor a stone to help keep the preservation work going. You can also read and hear so many stories about the prisoners that were kept in the tower. And of course, you can go see the crown jewels and meet the famous ravens of the tower. That being said, because this place is so popular, it does get very crowded and it's huge. So you could actually spend an entire day there and not even see everything in the tower. So if you want to avoid the crowds or don't have a ton of time to spend, then can I suggest the Jewel Tower in Westminster. This is one of only 2 buildings in the medieval Palace of Westminster to survive a big fire back in 1834. And it was originally built to house the precious gems of King Edward III back in 1365. This is London. We do old buildings really well. Inside, you can see the famous 14th century ceiling carvings, an exhibition about the history of the tower and the Palace of Westminster, and you can learn about the history of weights and measurements. Rock and roll. The ground floor is free to visit, and there's just a small fee to go to the upper floors. This is truly a rare historic gem because it is one of the few buildings to still exist from medieval times. And it's right next to Elizabeth Tower and the Houses of Parliament, so it's really easy to fit into your itinerary. Okay, number 2 on the list is the world famous British Museum. Now they have a very interesting and expansive collection of artifacts here. There are 80,000 that you can see on display in the museum, and it's completely free to visit. However, it gets so busy in this museum, and because there's so much on offer to see, if you spend an entire day here, you won't even scratch the surface. And notably, it is an uncomfortable product of Britain's colonial past, as a lot of the artifacts on display were obtained in very unethical ways from other countries. This is an ongoing controversy that the museum is currently dealing with, sort of. So if you're not keen on any of that, let me suggest an alternative. The Museum of Brands and Packaging. What better way to learn about British history than through actual British things, and not things stolen from other countries? What a concept. In this museum, you will go through the time tunnel, which starts in the Victorian era and goes up to modern day, where you'll see consumer products and the things that surrounded everyday people during these big moments of British history. There's also always a temporary exhibition which does a deep dive into a certain theme or time in history. That's always worth checking out too. This museum is in Ladbroke Grove, which is very close to Notting Hill, so if you're going to be in the area, make sure you stop by. By the way, if it's your first time visiting London, I have a free London 101 guide which has everything you need to know before you arrive. So to get that for free, click the link down in the description box of the video. And now let's go back to the top attractions on TripAdvisor. Number 3 on TripAdvisor is the London Eye. If you watched our channel, you might know my views on the London Eye. Get me out of here. This is my worst nightmare. And if you want to go do it. That's completely fine. Personally, I think there's some other cool places where you can get panoramic views of London without the crowds and the hefty price tag. For example, this is the Monument. Designed by Sir Christopher Wren and built in 1677, it was created to commemorate the Great Fire of London, which happened in 1666. And this is actually the tallest standalone stone column in the world, which means we've got some great views at the top. So let's go climb some stairs. There we go, Tower Bridge right there. And the Shard, the walkie-talkie building where the Sky Garden is, and you can basically see anything else you want to. There are 311 steps to get up here, but as you can see, it's worth the climb if you can do it. Another great alternative to the London Eye is the Sky Garden, which is actually right up there. It is London's tallest garden, and up there are bars, restaurants, plants you can learn about, and it's actually taller than the London Eye. What's also great is that it's completely free to visit. You just have to book tickets in advance online. Okay, 4th on the list on TripAdvisor is the National Gallery. And I can't hate on this place. It is an amazing collection of art and paintings, and best of all, most of it is completely free to see.
But because of that, it gets busy. Plus, maybe you don't like this style of art. So here's an alternative.
The Saatchi Gallery is one of London's amazing art galleries, located in this beautiful building just off of Sloane Square Station. And it has an incredible collection of contemporary artwork. Best of all, it's completely free to visit, but because this gallery isn't in central London, it doesn't get quite as crowded as, say, the National Gallery. I also recommend getting tickets to their paid exhibitions because they are usually amazing. Just check on their website to see what's on offer when you're in town and make sure you get tickets in advance because they do sell out on weekends. And finally, number 5, Tower Bridge. Now, I'm gonna assume that they're talking about the exhibition and museum inside Tower Bridge. And of course, that is a bit touristy, but you do get to learn a lot about the history of the bridge and its importance to London. Also, your ticket gets you access to the engineer room, both of the towers, and the glass walkway that looks down on the road below. But if you're feeling a bit museumed out and you want to see the bridge from a bit of a different angle, you could instead go on the Tower Bridge website and find out when the next bridge lifts are happening. The website's really great. It gives you details and times of the lift and also tells you what the name of the boat is that will be going under the bridge while it's happening. Great spots to watch the lift are here at Butler's Wharf, Pottersfield Park, or you can go on the edges of the bridge and watch up close from there. Or if you're feeling fancy, you can book yourself onto a river cruise that goes under the Tower Bridge. Some boats are tall enough that actually gets the Tower Bridge to open up, which is a cool experience. Otherwise, the ones that go under, that's pretty cool too.
Hello from London. I'm Eliza, a disabled Londoner who's lived here for over 27 years and spends all of my time in the best spots to hang out in London. In this video, we're going to let you in on the London attractions that we Londoners think are just big old tourist traps and give you our insider tips on how to get the most out of your trip by choosing activities that are actually worth your time. We have years of research and experience as Londoners and we can't wait to share. So let's go. Before we start, we've covered loads of places that we don't recommend and we think are not worth your money, such as Oxford Street, Leicester Square, Piccadilly Circus, and the London Eye. If you want more information about why we don't recommend these locations, check out the links in the description box after you've watched this video. Let's start with these hop-on, hop-off buses. Every major city has some version of them. Basically buses targeted at tourists that drive around all the major attractions. And we get why you might be tempted to buy tickets for these. They're convenient and accessible. They'll take you around all the big touristy sites without you having to figure out where they are and how you should get around. And you can see a lot of London very quickly. But they are so expensive. Tickets are £37 each for a single day, so you could easily spend hundreds every day for your whole party to access it. They're often overcrowded and often get stuck in traffic, so it can take ages to get anywhere, all in the rain or hot sun. But most of all, we have such a good and affordable public transport system here in London. You can access buses as an alternative that can take you to a lot of the same places. They're accessible and a fraction of the price. Let me show you how. This is the 139 bus. It's a standard double-decker red London bus. And like all London buses, each trip costs only £1.75. And the whole day's unlimited travel, including the tube, won't go above £8.10. It also takes you to loads of the big sites in London, like Abbey Road, Selfridges, Covent Garden Market. You'll also drive through Trafalgar Square and Piccadilly Circus if you want to look at the big screens for some reason. There's also the number 12 bus that drives you across Westminster Bridge, the 35 bus that will take you to loads of cool markets in London, and the 9 that will take you to lots of museums and palaces. TfL, that's Transport for London, the people who run our public transport, have a page all about the different bus routes tourists can take. We'll link it in the description. And if you feel like planning your own routes, it might be a bit overwhelming. We can help there. Our itineraries tell you which routes to follow each day, which sites, tours, restaurants, bars, and more are absolutely worth visiting along it. They're designed to take all of the stress out of planning your London trip and are way better value for money than a day's access to the hop-on and hop-off buses. We'll pop a link in the description if you want to find out more. London has a bunch of attractions that are tailor-made for tourists who are mostly just after a bit of entertainment, and they have a price tag to match. They're commercial, tacky, and not all that special to London, and we don't recommend them at all. You can probably imagine the kind of places we're talking about. That creepy wax museum, Madame Tussauds, the London Aquarium, Shrek's Adventure, and we can only guess why that's so popular. We know it can be overwhelming with kids to find things that are pushchair and wheelchair accessible, interactive and rainproof, so we're going to recommend a couple of suggestions. So this is still one of London's big attractions, but we really like the Science Museum. It can get busy, but we think it's a great day trip for kids, particularly if it's tipping it down with rain like it is today. It's entirely wheelchair accessible, which makes it pushchair friendly, and it's free to visit. There are loads of different things in there which are interactive for kids to enjoy. There's things to learn from Britain and beyond, and you could easily get lost in there for the whole day. And if you want to see some interactive art, we love the Serpentine, which is where I am at the moment. It's totally free to visit. It's in Kensington Gardens, and it's great to attend with kids. It's a contemporary art museum with loads of different bold and striking exhibitions, and it's only a 10-minute walk from the Science Museum, so if you have loads of energy, you could even do both on a rainy day like today. On the theme of commercial and expensive and not as cultural as they seem, you might have heard of experiences like the London Bridge Experience or the London Dungeons that claim to be museums but are more like cheesy interactive theatres or scare dungeons with theme park rides. I mean, they are sort of educational-ish and they can be fun for kids, but honestly they're so expensive with long lines and the history is a little muddled at times. But the good news is that we do have some really amazing museums and experiences for people who do want to learn about London's past. First of all, that famous bridge that you've seen countless photos of, well, it has an awesome museum that will teach you all about the amazing history and engineering of Tower Bridge. It's super interactive and educational and gives you the best view into a slice of London's history. If you visit at the right time, you might even be able to catch the bridge lift. We'll link the bridge lift timetables in the description below. We also adore the Globe Theatre tours, which show you the incredible theatre on the site Shakespeare's plays have been performed since 1599. You can see how Shakespeare's plays were performed and can learn about the many versions of the theatre that have stood on the South Bank since Shakespeare's plays were first performed. Don't be mad at us, but we think that Harrods is really overrated. It's full of tourists walking around looking at things that are far too expensive to buy, and it's not where a Londoner would really hang out. We get that it's really fashionable, fun, and Instagrammable, and there are toilets inside which are difficult to find in London, but we've got some other recommendations which you can use to go shopping for your London trip. Firstly, Liberty's, which is where we are now, is a beautiful old building with lots of lovely flowers outside, and it's just off of Oxford Street. It's a more manageable department store than Harrods, for example, and it's known for its beautiful products and amazing fabric. We also love a bit of local shopping when we're in London, and we recommend Brick Lane. It's full of amazing galleries and loads of vintage and independent stores. There's loads of things that you can visit, and you could easily spend the whole day there. There's amazing markets, and we just absolutely love it. If you're looking for London-specific items, we recommend East End Prints. It's a great place to get all of your souvenirs to bring back as gifts for your loved ones at home, and it's an independent and local shop. So there you go. Now you're ready to explore London like a pro and spot those tourist traps dotted around the city. If you've got any tips for fellow travellers on places to avoid and where to go instead, leave them in the comments down below. And for more videos to help you plan your London trip, click on one of the boxes popping up around me.